Thank you, everyone. Collaboration. My topic is collaboration with pharma and surgical companies for ophthalmic research. Industry funding for medical research is very essential to advance the treatment and prevention of many diseases, and companies can contribute by supporting research that improves eye care. But there are ethical issues involved and this involves practicing ophthalmologists, researchers, and academic faculty. And dangers do exist when researchers collaborate with the industry, and these because they are being closely scrutinized by the public and the media. So what are the fields in which we ophthalmologists can do research? And it is really required. India's entry into the one of the important field is stem cell research. And India's entry into stem cell research has progressed from few institutions to currently over 40 institutions and hospitals. And leading ones are in 2008 STEMpeutics, which has started from Manipal University campus, and STEMside, which is a joint venture of Apollo Hospitals and Cadila. And ICMR is drawing up plans for research in field of stem cell in ophthalmology, and LVPI and Narayan Netralaya have already started this. Second thing is in the field of medical devices, because as you see from this slide that the per capita spend on medical devices in India is the lowest, that is about $3 compared to other countries, and particularly in contrast to USA, which is spending $340. So there is a sizable growth opportunity available of research in the field of medical devices, and it is a challenge in India to produce medical devices that are not only cost competitive but also effective. And this can be used in the field of screening of various diseases like intraocular pressure screening devices, and treatment modalities, rehabilitation, and then monitoring like with portable perimeters. Another field is of biosimilars, and India has been on the forefront of biosimilar developments, and notable among this is ranibizumab generic, which has been produced in India, and latanoprost room temperature, which is another product which has come out of India. Gene therapy is another field, and the first FDA approval of gene therapy for a genetic disease, Vortigene Neparvovac. This was for ocular indication, inherited retinal disease. So development will help of gene therapy in managing not only glaucoma, inherited retinal diseases, geographical atrophy, uveitis, and many corneal dystrophies. So let us talk of an ideal situation of collaboration of ophthalmologists with these companies. A prominent ophthalmic specialist consultant for many companies in his fields, he receives handsome compensation for continuing education courses at his institution, for personal research, and he also believes that his involvement does not affect his opinions, his patient care, and he's not hesitant to also contradict the various things of the sponsor's products. But there is less than ideal situation which is more prevalent. A prominent ophthalmologist gave a presentation at a conference using slides provided by the drug company with its logo on every slide. In fact, he was not a key figure in the study presented. His was of one of the many centers in the study. Neither he have access to the study database, and he is forced to present a favorable interpretation of the data. And in some circumstances, the distinction between ethical and non-ethical becomes unclear. So this interaction of physician with industry can be addressed at 5 levels. It can be with practitioner, researcher, teacher, or with professional organizations like various ophthalmic societies. So let us go of the history of collaboration. Before 1980, medical research was performed primarily in academic medical centers. But then in 1980, there was an amendment and a law introduced in USA, which is called Bayh-Dole Act, which permitted universities to commercialize their invention without losing their funding. So 1984, there was $26 million of funding. By 2000, it became $2.3 billion. And of the $6 billion funds generated, about more than 50% goes to investigators in the US alone. In early 1980s, academic institutions partnered with pharma companies to develop research centers in which faculty members carried out industry research. Academic medical centers provided the patents and design for the trials, and companies enjoyed the prestige of working with reputed researchers. and they also reaped benefit from the academic publication that helped them to market their products. And institutions could patent these products and share royalties. Academic medical institutions suddenly enjoyed a tremendous influx of research dollars. But the pharma companies were not happy because they became frustrated by the red tapeism with institutional review boards, and the clinical trials progressed slowly because the physicians were involved also in teaching research and patient care. So pharma companies started losing time and money in the competitive global race for new drugs. So what came in to fill in this vacuum was CRO, that is Contract Research Organization and Site Management Organization. They filled in the vacuum because of the red tapeism and lethargy of academic institution researchers. So in 1991, 80% of the industry money went to academic institution. By 1998, it had dropped to 40%. So now there were 4 layers of involvement: pharma companies, CRO, SMO, academic medical centers, and independent non-academic side. And there was obviously intense competition for drug trial money. And the companies started designing studies favoring their products while not sponsoring studies which were needed by the academic investigators. So although drug trials conducted through academic medical centers have the potential to obtain balance between commercial interests of industry and scientific goals of investigators, but the trials conducted with CROs were prone to be biased, favoring industry. So most academic physicians practice in institutions that have rules governing ethical research, but practitioners unfortunately have no such binding. And so the personal vigilance may be required based on set of ethical principles. Then there was problems with authorship. Pharma companies are primarily interested in new drug applications, and publication in prestigious journal was not their main aim, whereas the researchers' main aim was publication and the development of new drug was secondary. So what happened was that the drug companies started getting the reports prepared by non-writing authors and non-author writers. Obviously, there were editors' concerns at increasing commercial involvement in journal submissions, lack of sufficient significant endpoints in the protocols, lack of correlation with the original hypothesis, and no access was available to the doctors regarding the drug data. And interference in investigators' right to publish trial results also resulted, because company used to hold pre-publication review to find out whether the drug trials is favorable or not. That's how they decided whether it should be published or not. And they had contract that the researchers could not publish the results for 3 years. So the results that were published in such a way to show advantages over the competing drugs. So drugs studies sponsored by industry, what happened was that the common practice was shortcut for phase 3 studies, and they started taking clearance from the private institutional review boards and not from the academic institutional review boards. Phase 4 switch studies resulted in patients' medication being switched to companies' medication, and these data unfortunately controlled by the company and not by the ophthalmologist, who unfortunately has little say in the analysis and later publication. So the result was, instead of publishing and doing research in riskier proposition, they started coming out with me too drugs like beta blockers, prostaglandin analogs, and they did not try to put money in riskier breakthrough products. So when there is diversion of research personnel in academic institution from other research to these kind of research, there was problem that the academic institution have started acting as agents of industry and not agents of society. And on top of that, we also have to remember that all researches which are carried out in vitro may not work in vivo. So what is the professional behavior? Ophthalmologists have a duty to do what is in the best interest of the patient and society, whereas business have fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit for their shareholders. They don't have any this duty towards patients to that extent. But we doctors are privileged because we are entrusted with patient care, and patients are considered vulnerable population, and we are expected to live up to a professional promise and behave in an ethical manner. So American Academy has come out with code of ethics for ophthalmic researchers, and they say that where conflict of interest exists between professional judgment concerning the well-being of a patient, then failure to abide by these rules can result in consequences varying from censure to suspension of membership. But what is the ideal situation? Not too rigid, not too lax. Flexibility is needed. Changes must be made in ophthalmic industry relationships. We do not live in an idealist vacuum. There are clear advantages of maintaining communication and collaboration with industry that result in improved patient care, but we must modify our dealings to enable ophthalmologists to regain and retain the public interest. These are the various guidelines which have come. So
Sir, please conclude.
yeah, this is last slide. So clinical research may lead to improved treatment of diseases. Industry-sponsored research over the years has greatly benefited patients. Discovery and development of important drugs such as statins, RT, latanoprost is the example. And these are the various Indian innovators who have come out with products like pupil expanders, cares, and smartphone products and pre-choppers. So if given a chance, ophthalmologists in India have the potential to really come out with path-breaking products. Thank you, everyone, for your kind and patient hearing.